Today, we are talking about the Zika virus. For decades, this thing was basically unknown, just a pathogen hiding out in a small forest in Africa. And then, what felt like overnight, it just exploded. It became this massive global health emergency that kicked off one of the most intense, high-speed vaccine development efforts we've ever seen.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at how Zika went from zero to a full-blown global crisis. Then, we're going to get up close and personal with the virus itself. After that, we'll see how scientists drew up a blueprint for a vaccine, dive into the incredible race to actually build it, and finally, we'll explore the tough challenges that are still out there. All right, let's set the stage. Every crisis has a starting point, right? Well, for Zika, it was like a slow burn that suddenly turned into a raging fire. Let's rewind and see exactly how this obscure virus became a threat that had the whole world on edge.
Just look at how fast this thing picked up steam. For 60 years, Zika was barely a blip on the radar, just a footnote in some medical journal. Then, bam, it starts hopping across the globe, from a tiny island in the Pacific in 2007 all the way to Brazil by 2015. And in Brazil, it just exploded. They called it the mystery disease. By 2016, the alarm bells were ringing so loudly that the WHO had to declare a global public health emergency.
And this is why everyone was so terrified. This is what made it a nightmare. A truly heartbreaking link started to emerge between Zika and a really devastating birth defect called microcephaly. In Brazil, the number of babies being born with abnormally small heads just skyrocketed. This number, 4.61 for every 10,000 births, it wasn't just some statistic. It was a human tragedy unfolding in real time. And it lit a fire under the entire scientific community to find a solution, and find it fast.
Okay, so if you're going to fight an enemy, you have to know its playbook. You have to understand how it operates. So let's zoom in on the Zika virus itself and figure out what tactics make it so uniquely dangerous. So Zika is part of this notorious family of viruses, the Flavivirus. That makes it a cousin to some other diseases you've probably heard of, like dengue, yellow fever, and West Nile. Now, this family connection, it was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it gave scientists a bit of a head start, but on the other, it hid a really dangerous secret that would make the search for a vaccine way more complicated. What made Zika so scary wasn't just that it was spread by mosquitoes. It had multiple ways to attack. It could be transmitted sexually. And the most terrifying part? It could actually cross the placental barrier, passing directly from a mother to her unborn child. This combination made it a true triple threat.
All right, so the enemy is identified. Scientists around the world knew what they were up against, and they started designing a counterattack. This is the story of how they drew up the blueprint for a Zika vaccine.
Right here, this is the bullseye. This is the envelope protein, or E protein for short. It covers the surface of the virus. Think of it like the specific key the virus uses to unlock and get inside our cells. So the strategy is simple. If you can create antibodies that block this key, you can stop the infection before it even starts. That's why this E protein became the #1 target for pretty much every single vaccine design. But building this vaccine, it was like trying to navigate a minefield. The checklist of things it had to do was seriously daunting. It needed to create a powerful immune response, sure. It needed to last a long time. It had to be easy to make and ship around the world. But two challenges really stood out. One, it had to be absolutely unquestionably safe for pregnant women. And two, it had to avoid a very dangerous potential cross-reaction with its cousin, the dengue virus. So, the goal was set. The target was identified. And what followed was a scientific sprint unlike almost any we've seen before. Let's take a look at this incredible global race for a solution. The secret weapon in this race was brand new technology. Instead of just relying on the old school methods of using a weakened or dead virus, scientists rolled out these revolutionary DNA and mRNA platforms. Think of it this way. A traditional vaccine is like showing your immune system a mugshot of the criminal. These new vaccines are more like sending an email with assembly instructions, teaching your own cells how to build a mock-up of the enemy's weapon. And this new way, it's unbelievably fast. And this new tech led to a total explosion of different ideas. You had these cutting-edge genetic vaccines from groups like the NIAID and Moderna. You also had the classic, more traditional killed virus approach coming from the military. And then you have these really clever viral vector vaccines, which basically use a harmless virus as a delivery truck to sneak the Zika blueprints into our system. It was a true full-court press. Every possible strategy was being thrown at the problem at once.
But, even with all these incredible innovations and this breakneck speed, the race is far from over. It's never that simple, is it? Science uncovered some new, really complex challenges along the way.
And this was the biggest hurdle of them all. A truly terrifying paradox called antibody-dependent enhancement, or ADE. So here's the deal. Because Zika and dengue are so similar, antibodies you might have from a past dengue infection can recognize Zika. But instead of destroying it, they just kind of latch on. And this can act like a Trojan horse, accidentally helping the Zika virus sneak into our cells and making the disease even worse. This was the #1 safety concern, hands down. And then, believe it or not, came the ultimate ironic twist. All the public health measures, the mosquito control, the warnings, and rising herd immunity, they worked so well that the Zika epidemic actually started to fade away. Now that's fantastic news, obviously, but it created a massive logistical headache for the scientists. How can you prove your vaccine actually works if there's not enough of the virus circulating to even test it against? So with the virus on the decline, you might be asking, why keep going? Why keep pouring all this effort in? Well, the answer really lies in the story of another virus, rubella. Like Zika, rubella is a pretty mild disease for most people, but it is absolutely catastrophic for a developing fetus. The rubella vaccine wasn't just about stopping a rash. It was about protecting future generations from birth defects. And it worked. It was a massive success. The fight for a Zika vaccine shares that exact same profound mission. So while there isn't a licensed Zika vaccine on the pharmacy shelf today, the race to create one has pushed science into a whole new era. The lessons we learned from this are paving the way for something called precision vaccination, vaccines that could one day be tailored to our own individual genetics. The battle against Zika might have faded from the headlines, but the scientific revolution it sparked, well, that's just getting started.